Next Now knows how President Trump snuck his Supreme Court pick out of Colorado without anyone noticing. A Colorado notices a huge bill that isn't his, unless this is him.
You never seen this guy before?
I have no clue who he is.
And the most Colorado thing to do on an unusual ice day. But next begins with a political guide, how to make angry protesters even angrier in 2 easy steps. Republican Senator Cory Gardner will demonstrate for us. Step 1, claim that concerned constituents calling your office aren't your constituents at all.
There's certainly a number of people who are calling from out of state, California, New York. That's happening. There are a certain element who are paid activists through Craigslist.
Now step 2, double down on your claim by calling the concerned folks on the line paid protesters.
What I worry about, though, of course, is paid protesters from out of state.
Yes, indeed. That is what Cory Gardner told us earlier this week and caused a bit of an uproar in the process. Tonight, we're looking at the role of paid political organizing and why Senator Gardner is picking this particular fight. His office did show us examples of Craigslist ads looking for people to participate in politics, including one ad offering to pay people to make political calls. Our politics guy, Brandon Ritteman, took that ad and the bigger question of whether this matters to our political experts, who both happen to be paid political organizers.
A respected issue advocacy firm seeking telephone-based grassroots organizers, and it's a paying gig. I mean, do you...
A telephone-based grassroots organizer can be somebody that calls other progressives and says, hey, we're having a rally, you should be here at blah, blah o'clock. I've never used Craigslist to pay people to protest or organize a rally or anything like that. Cory Gardner, I've been here for 10 years. 80232, look me up. Lakewood, Colorado, represent. He has gone on 2 TV stations now and lied 3 times about paid protesters from New York and California bugging up his phone line so real Coloradans can't get through. It's horse feathers, it's nonsense. Michael Bennet doesn't seem to have a problem getting to all the people that are calling him, and there's an equal number asking him to vote no on DeVos as there are for Cory Gardner to vote no on DeVos.
Inaccurate, number one, about the equal number of calling both Bennet and Cory. And look, I have to defend Cory on this one. Both of us at times have used phone companies that will connect directly. There are text message companies that you can use, that you can hire in order to connect people to the Senate and congressional offices. The fact is that if they really wanted to change the outcome rather than make a political statement, they'd actually be calling Michael Bennet instead of Cory Gardner, because on the Gorsuch thing, he's a question mark when Cory Gardner is not.
Do you think that we're moving into an era where we're just going to see a whole lot more demonstrations because it seems to get attention?
I don't know if it matters. I mean, there were 100,000 women in the streets of Denver for the Women's March that Sunday, right? Were they all being paid? Were some of them being paid? How can you tell? The fact is these protests work. Organizing works. And yes, there are going to be people who get paid to do it. There are going to be people who want to spend 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours a day making phone calls for $12 an hour to do something they care about. But at the end of the day, this is an uprising against an unpopular president.
But we do have to recognize that there is a professional political element to this. Both Ian and I do that.
From there, Kelly went on to make the argument there should be more transparency on money in political protests, sort of like some folks want for campaign finance. She doesn't want to limit the amount that groups can spend, but thinks disclosure would help us tell the difference between grassroots and AstroTurf.
So instead of starting Watergate 2 over phone records and phone line tracing, let's just stipulate, were there a few people who probably got paid to call Senator Gardner's office? Probably.
Totally possible.
Were the vast majority of people who called his office angry with what's going on actual constituents? Probably. So my question to you, why is he picking this fight? Why is he poking the bear?
Yeah, I mean, I think in this case, they're just dealing with a large volume of calls right now and trying to come to terms with that. And perhaps this is a more convenient explanation at this point. But I think what you've hit on something here. We definitely know there are paid organizers. That's different than a paid protester.
Yeah.
They are ginning up support from people who probably were never friends with Senator Gardner's politics in the first place. But some of them are now getting involved for the first time in a serious way. And they're feeling pretty slighted by his focus on this idea that some people are being paid to call.
Brandon Ritteman, many thanks.
Thank you.
So President Trump managed to get his Supreme Court pick smuggled out of Colorado and into Washington, all secret like this week. Reporters were staking out Judge Neil Gorsuch's neighborhood in Boulder, as well as his federal courtroom in Denver. And now we know The White House called George Gorsuch on Monday, arranged to have a neighbor take him out of the hood to a Starbucks inside a Safeway in Erie. And that is where he met with White House employees who took him to Rocky Mountain Regional Airport in Broomfield. There, Supreme Court 1 flew to Joint Base Andrews, and he was taken to a friend's house in Virginia. And that is where Judge Gorsuch hung out until the announcement at the White House. It was Supreme Court nomination theater, pretty well executed, no matter what your politics.
So was
Scott VonLankan, in his life of service to others, extended beyond his death. We have learned that the RTD security officer killed in Denver Tuesday night donated his organs. This morning, his body was taken in a procession from the Donor Alliance building in Aurora to a funeral home in Loveland. VonLankan's wife, Sherry, told me yesterday she wants people to remember how hard her husband worked to solve other people's problems. First as a police officer, then as a pastor, most recently as a security officer. Scott VonLankan worked long hours every week trying to provide for his wife and his 2 adult daughters, one of whom is severely disabled. And we're learning more today about the suspect accused of killing VonLankan. Federal law enforcement were warned at least twice about Joshua Cummings in the last year, warnings that he could be an Islamic radical. Our 9 Wants to Know team found that a mosque in the Denver area warned the Department of Homeland Security about Cummings. In an email, Muslim leaders in our community warned the feds that Cummings was very radicalized and unwilling to listen to reason. Before that, a mosque in Austin, Texas warned the FBI about Cummings, saying he was acting aggressively. We don't know if law enforcement made any contact with Cummings following those warnings, but the 9 Wants to Know has confirmed that the local FBI office was aware of him before the shooting.
Identity theft happens all the time, but this case seemed a bit different to us. Different enough that we wanted to share it with you here on Next. It's all because of the clue the thief might have left behind.
So you've had an exciting month.
A whole exciting month.
This is Eric Solano.
In the mail, I got an what do you call it here? We'll call it a account approval notice from Costco that I've opened up an account.
You've heard a story like his before. He has great credit, and all of a sudden, out of the clear blue, he hears about a credit card he didn't open. His story has one distinct difference.
I got in the mail my credit card. And on the back of the credit card, there's a picture of somebody else.
Can you tilt your head up? I don't see the similarities.
This is not Eric Solano.
You never seen this guy before?
I have no clue who he is.
We don't know who this guy is, but someone opened the credit card in Eric's name with his address and his phone number, but a different driver's license number and a fake email address. Someone used that card to buy $5,000 worth of gift cards and other interesting stuff.
Most important thing I believe is a Dow computer. Bought some leggings.
Someone bought trash bags and produce.
It's healthy. Eating some good chicken, eating good asparagus.
Maybe if you're on the run, you need to...
Stay light on your feet.
Someone also opened a credit card in Eric's name at Best Buy, too. It doesn't have a picture, but this card does.
It's not you, right?
This is not me.
So who is it? And why is his picture on the card Eric never asked for? Eric reported this to Denver police where he lives. They are investigating. The Costco where this card was opened is in Sheridan. We talked to Sheridan police. They told us the man in the photo does not look familiar. So it's an odd case.
Yeah.
And again, we're not sure if that person in the photo is the person who actually opened the card, but you got to wonder.
And it's not like mistaken identity. It's not as if there are 2 people who are virtually indistinguishable from one another in terms of looks. That's not the case here.
They look distinctly different.
Just saying.
Yeah.
All right, Steve Steger, thank you. RTD opened a new train station in Arvada today. Great looking station. It's just missing a train. G-Line to Arvada hasn't opened as scheduled. Isn't even in the testing phase yet because of the lingering problems with the A-Line, the train to the plane. RTD told us here on Next that they expect to have the G-Line running by the end of the year. City of Arvada cut the ribbon on the new center because, I mean, what else were you going to do? It's just sitting there, and people can use the parking there near Old Town. Construction for this very impressive Old Town Arvada station began in November of 2013, a $36 million project. We hope it gets some use soon. When life hands you ice, Coloradans make ice hockey rinks out of streets. We solve another battle over how to pronounce a certain place name in our state. And we don't have a regular segment spotlighting jerks, but these guys are making us consider it. Next. most Colorado thing we saw today was not the ice storm last night. That was distinctly not Colorado, but the way that our neighbors dealt with it, oh yeah, this is all kinds of Colorado. Up in Arvada, there were some kids who got out of bed early to see if they could manage to pass a hockey puck back and forth down a city street. Ice-covered asphalt. These particular kids were wondering why they couldn't get an ice day off from school, you know, for safety. Love that they made the best of the situation.
And now the great thaw begins. Still ice on the camera lens tonight, but not nearly as bad as last night, where we couldn't even see the city. This layer of ice on windshields, camera lenses, sidewalks, and really creating an issue, especially up in the Fort Collins area, where just stepping outside of your front door to get to the bus stop or to your car for work was kind of a treacherous ordeal. Our high today, only 26 degrees. We just could not scour away that cold air, and we didn't see much of the sun today. We're anticipating additional snow showers in the mountains tonight. A second weather system crossing the Northwest Plateau. Winter weather advisory scaled back to extreme southern Colorado, and eventually tomorrow that cold air is going to push south and east away from the area. 3 to 6 inches of snow in the northern mountains tonight, and then that snow winds down around midnight when the fog returns to Denver, the Front Range, and eastern plains. But it will burn off mid-morning, leaving us with some sunshine tomorrow and a slightly milder day. 18 with cloudy skies tonight and areas of fog. Tomorrow temperatures will warm ever so slowly, but that 40 is going to feel amazing after you consider today's high well below the average of 44. And the weekend's crazy warm with southwest winds close to 60 Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. Next weather system travels into Colorado Tuesday night into Wednesday. So go out and have some fun in the cold if you can.
Thank you, Kathy. When we offered to settle your disputes over how to pronounce place names around Colorado, we did not realize we were signing up for a full-time job. First, you sent us to Buena Vista. Then it was Ouray. Now it's that county in the San Luis Valley with the funny name. We called the Sheriff's Department to settle it once and for all.
We pronounce it, so watch. Usually, they'll, like if I order a part for the copier or something and they already have my account information, and they'll say, okay, this is Lynn Miles, Post Office Box 265, and then there's this long pause before they say the name of our community. I've heard Sagach or Sasquatch, and I've also heard Sagawashe and Saguchi.
Look, Sagawashe, it's kind of French. Saguachi, you know, it's kind of Italian sounding. That's nice. I like that, though. It actually comes from a Ute word. Sawatch means water at the blue earth, or so said the Chamber of Commerce down there. We are happy to solve the pronunciation debate in your family or amongst your friends. Send us an email next@9news.com or get our attention about anything with the hashtag HeyNext.
Next asks why Coloradans are sending their tax dollars to Dallas. Art gets covered by garbage in Denver. And our resident psychologist helps us with coping mechanisms for a New England Patriots Super Bowl.
I think if we're going to get amped up about it, we got to do some hate watching.
I bet people hate watch this show too. Yeah, stay tuned.
Perhaps you, like me, drive the back roads of Colorado wondering about just one thing. Why don't we have license plates with chili peppers on them? I mean, there's an Adopt a Shelter pet plate, or, you know, that's my personal favorite. There's a Craig Hospital plate, there's a 10th Mountain Division plate, Ski Country USA, state parks, and on and on and on. Close to 40 group special license plates on the DMV website. No chili. We looked, and that appears to be just wrong. The Pueblo Chili Growers Association wants its own license plate to let all of Colorado know that the Pueblo chili is Colorado's chili. The bill to approve the plate was presented at the state capitol today. It's quite decorative. Passed through the House Transportation and Energy Committee this morning. It's now headed to appropriations. There's actually a whole branding campaign on now for the Pueblo chili, if you hear more about it. Organizers got a grant through the federal government, the USDA, to promote their chilies. The Pueblo Chili Growers Association and the county are making a concerted push for agritourism. How about that? This is a friendly public service announcement to not be a punk. Don't put ugly graffiti over beautiful murals in our city. Don't ruin our public art with your spray paint. Just let art be art. The next viewer, Jennifer Larson, originally pointed this out to us, said, quote, I was sad to see the tagging on 2 beautiful murals on the Cherry Creek bike path this morning. I love and value public art throughout the city. I don't know what can be done, she said. The graffiti's on the Cherry Creek Trail bike path. It's near Broadway, close to downtown. Good thing is there's signs up now on the graffiti saying that the city is aware of it and they're going to work to restore the murals in the coming weeks. If you're wondering, we blurred out the graffiti tags because we're not your PR agency, taggers.
Our next question is a familiar one that always seems to come up this time of year as we do our taxes. Jackie McGlashan and Rick Lutho both ask, why is the city of Denver outsourcing billing and payment collections to Dallas?
So we asked the city's Treasury Division, what's up with that? Long story short, the city's bank's lockbox facility happens to be in Dallas. And for a while they were using a P.O. box in Denver, but then they'd have to pay a courier to transport all of our tax returns down to Dallas. They were looking for ways to save money, and they found out it was just easier to eliminate the courier. So now they depend on the U.S. mail system and all of us to send our tax returns to a P.O. box in Dallas, and then the bank picks them up. And the city did rightfully note that instead of mailing in tax documents, a lot of businesses and people are filing their returns through the online portal these days. Next returns in a moment with your feedback and a psychologist's suggestions on how to deal with Tom Brady overload this weekend.
How do I get myself amped up to watch the Super Bowl if it's one team I hate and the other team I really don't care about?
Yeah, and that's kind of the situation we got this year. You know, we have the team that everybody loves to hate in Denver versus the team that I think a lot of people in Denver didn't realize was still a team. That's what we got in the Super Bowl. I think if we're going to get amped up about it, we got to do some hate watching, which is not necessarily good for the psyche, but it's so much fun to root against the Patriots.
I think a lot of people watch commercials as theater during the Super Bowl. How do I take theater and connect it to somebody to make them want something?
What we know from social psychology and marketing psychology is that those commercials don't honestly really work all that well to sell a product. It's repetition. It can be the worst commercial in the world, but if you hear it over and over and over again, it's going to get stuck in your head, and you're more likely to buy that product. So the commercials in the Super Bowl are fantastic. I love watching those commercials, and companies pay a ton of money to get in front of all those eyeballs. But one commercial on the Super Bowl that is amazing isn't really going to sell a product unless it is so amazing that the news shows it a million times afterward. People go on YouTube to watch it a bunch of times afterward, and it's a repetition.
So
thing.
We're the problem here.
We are the problem here. It's not puppy monkey baby. We are the problem here.
Yeah, that was a weird one.
That was, but I couldn't stop watching it.
Yeah. Did it make you want a Mountain Dew?
No.
Is it sad that I can remember that was for Mountain Dew?
No, but it did make me want more puppy monkey baby commercials.
And they didn't come out.
I know. I was glued to the television waiting for those commercials.
What a shame. Dr. Maxwell Tell, thanks so much.
Yeah, thanks.
You get the last word as always. Jake tweets, "No, is the A-line working?" update on Next today. Jake, it's been a tough week for RTD with the loss of their transit workers. So while we can't ignore something like their new Arvada train station opening without a train, we'll lay off the A-line jokes for a little bit. Tony writes, "We all know 9 News is biased toward conservative views. You are a paid whore. Grow some cojones and report the truth." Can I say cojones on the TV? If I'm not allowed to say that, you'll see Steve Steger here next time.